Welcome to For the Record, an unfiltered view on current trends and timeless advice for surviving in the aesthetics industry. Whether you're an injector, practice owner, sales rep, or marketer, it's time to set the record straight. Each week we cut through the chaos and showcase diverse perspectives and winning ideas from the best minds in the industry. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Hall, Chief Growth Officer at Aesthetic Record. Now, let's get started on this week's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to season 4 of For the Record. I cannot believe we're on season 4, but I'm so excited to be here. And we have an amazing guest to kick off this season. You guys know I like to start off with a bang. And this time we're starting off with a little bit of a sparkle, if you will. We have with us today Dani Sher, who is in Chicago, Illinois. She's a physician associate, and she needs no introduction at all. If you guys have Instagram or have been alive in aesthetics, you've seen her videos, which are absolutely hysterical. She is a genius when it comes to ultrasound, helped to really bring it to the U.S., and make it part of our clinical practice, is training all across the country, has an amazing practice in Chicago, is really doing all the things, and I am a huge fangirl, and she's here with us today. So Dani, welcome to our show.
Oh, thank you so much. What a nice introduction. Holy moly.
Well, I told you in the text, I need to take an edible before I do this because I'm such a fangirl. But trust me, guys, I did not take the edible. I'm good to go on that. But you have such a cool background. You are a stand-up comedian. You've been in the ER forever. Now you've been in aesthetics for quite some time. You're ushering in new things, new clinical practice standards, if you will. And you just have so much cool stuff I want to talk about. But we're going to start unpacking it first with how in the heck did you get here from French to comedy to the ER, and now you're in aesthetics? Give us a quick background, if you will.
Oh, wow. You did a deep dive on my bio to mention the French thing. That was sort of a detour for sure. But I actually went to school to with the hopes of becoming a physician. My dad's a doctor, and I was always kind of thinking I'd be a doctor. So I went to a school considering pre-med, and then basically found comedy there, and was like, never mind pre-med, I'm just gonna become a comedian. And so I switched to a French major because I had plenty of credits from high school. So I was like, this one I can just get in and out of here with a degree and focus on comedy. So I did that. I just, after college, moved to Chicago with $200 in my pocket and crashed on somebody's couch for a few weeks while I rollerbladed to job interviews, and got a job at Dave & Buster's, which was really a highlight of my career. And I did comedy for many, many years, about 13 years. And then I started kind of pining for a little bit more stable life as I got older, and saw some of my comedian friends and that they were still kind of going through, job to job struggles. And I just thought, I don't know if I can hang like this for eternity. And so I thought, why don't I go back into medicine? And so ultimately I did. I got back into medicine, but ended up going the PA route because I still wanted to stay active in comedy. And I thought being a PA could afford me that. So that's what I did. I kept up the comedy a little bit, went to PA school, fell in love with emergency medicine, and have been in the same ER for 15 years, a level 1 trauma center in Chicago. And that's where I kind of started getting into ultrasound, about 12 years ago. About 3 years into my ER career, I started picking up ultrasound and loved it. Really fell in love with how it refined the work that I was doing in the ER, made a lot of these ER procedures so much safer, so much more sophisticated. And then when I got interested in injections, I thought, well, a lot of the stuff's really pretty unsafe if you don't know where you're going. So that's what I did. I started kind of ultrasounding the face, and that the rest is kind of history. So that's kind of in a nutshell how I got French, comedy, ER, ultrasound.
Well, little known fact, I'm obsessed with the ER shows like Chicago Med, New Amsterdam, like obsessed. And I kind of feel like the stand-up and the ER are kind of the same thing. Like, you don't know what you're going to walk into. You just got to kind of go, work with the crowd, feel it as you go, make change on the fly. So I can actually see how those are somewhat related. But to that point, you've brought the comedy kind of over into aesthetics. You make things that are really difficult or hard to talk about funny and lighthearted. And I think people really cling to that because it's such a relief for us in this chaotic industry that we live in. But kind of thinking through that, I want to talk about your business aspect first before we go into ultrasound, because I think your background doesn't scream entrepreneur at all. Like, I'm going to own a business one day. It's a very different background, but you have this amazing practice, which, by the way, guys, her last name is not Sparkle. I laugh every time I hear it. It's not Sparkle, although it could be. But let's talk about your business and how you made the jump to entrepreneurship from being in the ER and thought, let's just own a business and build this big thing out and then go travel the world and do ultrasound and be Dani.
Yeah, that is definitely the biggest sort of accident of the whole thing, was the success and the kind of entrepreneurial aspect of my business, Sparkle Aesthetics. I quite honestly was born out of just like a deep-seated authority complex that I have. I just didn't want to have to kind of report to anybody. And I knew I wouldn't really probably do well in kind of working underneath somebody. So I just thought, if I'm going to do injections, it's just going to be kind of on my own. But I never really expected to do what I've done here. So this has been a real work in progress and a real learning curve for me, which I think it is for a lot of people in the aesthetic world. Is, a lot of us are medical. We never had business training. We never had, entrepreneurial kind of aspirations. I think a lot of it is born out of love of the art and love of the, injecting people and helping them feel their best. I think all of that kind of is a journey for a lot of us in medicine, is to how to run and operate and grow a business. So I think for me, when I started injecting, it was really just with the idea that I just want to do Botox parties and, kind of do my own thing. And those Botox parties quickly became, oh, you did my Botox a couple months ago at this party. I need you to do it again. Like, now I'm due. And so, it was kind of servicing those people or their friends or their family. Hey, you did my Botox at this party. Can you do my mom, my neighbor, or whatever? And so that kind of got into, well, I don't really want to be doing this at somebody's house or at my house. So I just kind of got into a little office sharing with a physician in Oak Park. And she was doing stuff at the hospital a couple days a week. So I would share her space. And then that got to be kind of like, I felt like I was in her way and it wasn't the right vibe with somebody with like, she was a GI doctor. So it was like somebody with like their like, colostomy tubes or, just was like, this isn't the right fit for what I'm going for. And so then I moved to share another space, again, always with the idea, a couple days a week, I want to still go to the ER. And I went and shared another space with a microblader. And that went really well too. And so then we started kind of cross promoting each other. She had microblading clients. I had my Botox and not too much filler at the time, patients. And so that just became kind of like a much more blossoming business, where I said, I should probably hire a front desk person, just because I can't answer the phone when I'm injecting and stuff like that. And then from there, it just really grew. And then that was a few years ago that I moved into my current space, and that was a storefront, which I thought, it's not going to change that much. I can still have a small little business in a storefront, but that's not what happened. It just became more and more, oh, hey, do you do laser hair? And do you do facials here? And I thought, yeah, I probably should do that stuff, because all these people, I don't want them going someplace else to get that stuff, So it just really organically grew into a much bigger business than I had set out to do. And now, in fact, I'm building out another space that's 3 times the size of my current space. So it continues to grow, and I continue to try to work hard to develop this part of my brain that is really pretty new to me, which is like owning and operating a business with employees. That's all very new to me.
Well, it's funny because I come from that part of it. That part's like in the bag for me. And the other part's like all the medical and the clients and thinking about, an adverse event and what do you do in the moment. And, I think I obsess over that when we look at the conference, because I want people to know that part when they actually probably really need the business coaching as much as they need the actual clinical coaching. So I try to balance it out, but I don't always do a good job. It's whatever you come to the table with is kind of your perspective. But one of the things I love about your business is you have branded it so beautifully. It's very like this 50s Jetsons, like it's a space age 1950s about, I don't know how to even explain it, but you've branded it where wherever I look at anything and see your imagery, I know it's your brand. I know it's your practice that we're talking about. And that's not a thing that people usually know how to do. I mean, even creatives don't think about that very often. But how did you kind of set on this motif, if you will, this decor, this idea? Because again, your name is like synonymous with your practice and with what you're doing. I mean, it's just so beautifully branded. So give us some ideas on that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. And yes, I have to give you major credit, because I think somebody like you has also built like an incredible empire. Um, that takes such business savvy. And after kind of building my business, I think to myself, wow, there are people out there that just know how to do this stuff. And I'm amazed and impressed by people like you that kind of know exactly how to maneuver all these different things that like are very really an uphill kind of educational battle for me. But anyways, I kind of set out for a different vibe than when I was with the microblader, sharing space with a microblader. And she had sort of like this black kind of like gothic space. And working in that space for a couple of years, I was like, I don't really know what my aesthetic is going to be if I get my own space, but I know it's not going to be like dark and black and gold. She was like black and gold heavy. So I think out of that came this desire for just kind of leaning into this like maximalist color. And, from being from Florida, I've always loved like turquoise and, teal and pink, that kind of Miami flamingo vibe. And as a child who grew up in the 80s, born somewhere around there, but I loved the show I Dream of Jeannie, and I loved the show Bewitched, and I loved the Jetsons, and I just loved that aesthetic. And to me, I kind of really wanted to embrace that sense of what I grew up with was like beautiful. Like I Dream of Jeannie to me was like beautiful. And Samantha and Bewitched was like, I was like, she's so pretty. Like I want to be like her. And so for me, the Sparkle brand was kind of this sense of nostalgia for me personally. And also understanding that in aesthetics, so much of our choices as patients are driven by a sense of nostalgia. This sense of like how we want to look is very similar to how we used to look, and kind of embracing that aesthetics is deeply rooted in a sense of nostalgia, and kind of like this wanting to hold on to how we look now so that time isn't kind of changing us. So I kind of just blew that out and thought, I just want this place to be like maximalist Florida and happy and sunny, and this kind of beautiful 1950s, 60s space that was just happy. I knew I didn't want it to feel like other med spas. I knew I wanted it to be like when people walk in, they don't feel intimidated. They don't feel like I don't belong here, but instead they feel like this place is fun and it's warm and welcoming. And it gives me a sense of peace for some reason. So that's what I did.
I love it. And I love Samantha. I love that whole, I'm also an 80s baby. I love that whole genre. And it's interesting because I think because you love it so much and believe in it, it comes through with everything that you do. It's in all of your marketing materials, everything looks and feels that way. I think if you don't love your brand, you're a little bit gun shy to use it, or it doesn't just naturally come to you to put it on everything. Like I'll put AR on my coffin. Like I'll get a tattoo of Aesthetic Record one day because, you spend so much time building a brand, it becomes synonymous with who you are. I think you experience that. I do as well, where it's like, I am AR some days, and AR is me, and we're kind of the same thing. And so I totally understand it. But as I think about a patient coming into your practice, are they aware? I'm sure they are. They have your Instagram of all the like hilarious things that you guys do there. I mean, you bring in Brittany and Rana, and you're all together in all these funny videos. And where does the time come to make those, first of all? And how does that impact your patient perspective walking in? Because you do have this like different thing that no one else has that makes it like a destination.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I think the patients that come there, they have seen a lot of this stuff, and I think for whatever reason they're like, that's where I want to go, a place that like did a video on like mixing their product with a vibrating cock ring, and they like they're for whatever reason they go like, oh, that kind of comedy seems like a place I could get along with there. And I do think in aesthetics we draw people in that are similar to us, and So in a way, my Instagram and all the comedy stuff, it's sort of like a weeding out feature where if this doesn't crack you up, or if this is like unsettling to you, you're probably not going to really get along with me that well in person, or we're not going to have the right fit. So in a way, it's kind of like just a first step to be like, are we going to have a good therapeutic relationship together? So I think that a lot of them have seen it, and it's either not a deterrent or it does draw them in. So that's a good thing. And then as far as like the time to make the videos, I mean, they are the bigger involved videos, like you're talking about with Rana and Britt and Maggie and everybody that I try to grab from Chicago. Those take me very little time to come up with. The script takes me very little time. They're just usually in the back of my brain where I'm like, oh, that would be really funny. And I sit down and I write it real quick. And then I just send out an email to all the injectors in Chicago that I know, and just saying, hey, is anybody available this date and this time? And then whoever is, it's usually on a Sunday, whoever is, I'm just like, great, you're gonna play this like Disney princess, that washes people's faces with Botox. And they're like, great, let's do it. So it turns out to be a really fun time, and whoever's available, I'm always so grateful. I'm like, thank you for doing this ridiculous idea.
Well, we got to be part of the Tom Van Eyck video a few weeks ago, and we were at Modern Beauty Con. I walk in, and my staff is like filming this, and I'm like, guys, do you know who that is? And they don't know aesthetics quite like I do. Like, that's Tom and this Dani. Like, this is huge. They were like so excited about doing it afterwards. But you're saying all the things that we all want to say that we can't because we're either embarrassed or our social media won't let us because the PR police. So I think it's a huge service to our industry, frankly. I mean, you're doing the Lord's work here. Dani, you may not know it, but you are, because it's things, even like the Olympics that you did were just hysterical. The Injector Olympics, I just love that. And like the most average injector award that you've been giving out, that one's hysterical too. I can't think of what you call it, but you know what I'm talking about. But I think you're saying the things that we don't want to say because we're scared to, but it brings again a lighthearted part of, the downside of aesthetics, a part of it that's not so pretty, the ugly side of it, and it makes it a bit laughable for all of us to say, oh my gosh, this is us, we're doing this. And I think it's not TikTok dancing, which I love. Thank you for not doing TikTok dancing and doing this instead, because I find value in this. But thinking through that ultrasound in your practice, and all these things you have going on, you have the brand, you have this exciting comedy life, you're still in the ER all the time, doing that too. How do you balance all of that as now a business owner and getting all that sort of at the top tier level? I mean, you're operating at a very high level, very high quality level, doing great outcomes, good patient work, and then make it all fit into your life because you're also a mom with kids. So how in the hell are you getting this all done? Give us your scheduling advice, because I'm not getting it all done, and I want to learn from you how to get it all done.
No, it's definitely a struggle. Like it really is a struggle. And there are days where I'm like, I have taken on too much. Like, this is just too much. And, so it's definitely a lot right now. My typical day is I'm usually waking up around like 5:30 to just kind of answer emails and kind of get on top of everything from an organizational perspective. And then I try to have everything done by 7 when the kids wake up. And then it's, when I'm with my kids, I just try to put everything else away and just be present. And that's my whole goal as a mom, is to just be focused on them when they're awake and when I'm around them. And I try to not even get home until I've answered all the emails or texts that I need to. I'd rather stay at the office for an extra 30 minutes, getting all that put away, so that when I come home, I put my phone away and I can just talk to my babies about their day and what they've got going on. So, but it's a struggle. I grew up with a mom who worked a lot. She was a Olympic. She qualified for the Olympic marathon when she was 44 and 48, running like a 2:46 marathon, just like insanely fast. She just worked her buns off as a runner, but she was also working as a like an insurance VP, and then she ended up going to law school. I mean, she was sort of like, to me, the role model of like, just go after whatever you love, and showing that to your kids will make you a good mom, because my mom has been amazing. And we're very close. We've always been very close. So to me, I think if I have less time, that's more quality with the kids, and that's more important, because it's important to me to show my daughter, especially, what it looks like to go after what you love and to work hard. And so I try to balance it in terms of quality time versus quantity, because I definitely don't want more time where I'm distracted or on my phone. So usually I'm like home by 6:30, and then it's like kid time from 6:30 to 8:30, and then it's husband time from 8:30 to 10. And then the thing that does go is like I have to sacrifice husband time a little bit to answer questions on email or whatever. So that's definitely, it's a constant balancing act. I think that most working women would kind of feel. So you're not alone, Tiffany, and I think I'm not alone either. Like I think there are tons of us in, especially in aesthetics, that are moms and just trying to juggle it all.
Yeah, it's a season of life too. I mean, you're in a hot time right now for you. Your name is everywhere. People want you. They want time with you to come to your classes, for you to come to them and do classes. So I think part of it too is just seasonality. Like you got to ride the wave. You know, when the iron is hot, you got to strike. And I think for you with ultrasound, because you're ushering it in, like you and Stella and Steve Wine are really the first ones to make it part of the everyday clinical practice, like part of life as an injector. You've got big shoes to fill. You've got, not big shoes to fill. You have a tall order to fill. You've got a big job, and what you're doing is impacting the industry in a way that we haven't seen before. We haven't really talked about this before. I think in the ER, I'm sure 25 years ago they weren't using ultrasound either, and now they are. It's a weird thing to learn and to get comfortable with, and it's different and new, and people are pushing back. It's such a polarizing topic. What I love it or I hate it. And so I think about with me when I go home with my little boy, I have to you bring all that with you, all that baggage. So I try to do what you do, like stop it, leave it at the door, and then when you're home, you're home. But my God, it's so hard, Dani. It's so hard to do because I want to get that email sent or get you that thing that you needed, and everyone needs you all the time, right? It's 24/7. They want you all the time. But thinking through that, in your travel schedule, you do a lot of your training in your office, obviously in Chicago, but you're kind of everywhere right now. So at what point did you decide I'm going to take this show on the road and go out and start doing ultrasound? And by the way, in doing that, what have you heard people who are like, oh, ultrasound, that's a fad. That's not really going to be a thing long term. I think it is, by the way, guys. Newsflash, it is going to be a thing. How do you combat that or get people to believe in it? Because I think whenever you leave a training, they're like, oh, ultrasound's so great. Like you have this way to just magically turn them on to it. So what are your perspectives right now thinking about the next 3 to 5 years in aesthetics? Will we have ultrasound as part of our clinical standards? And in doing that, how does it look for you going out and training and teaching injectors all over the country and the world possibly? Loaded question.
Yeah. So I think like in terms of, I'll answer the part about like, what do I see the future of like in 3 to 5 years? Is this going to be a standard practice? And I always compare it to my experience of what happened in the emergency room, because I was in the emergency room when ultrasound kind of was becoming the hot topic of the ER. So, I definitely rode that wave, like in the ER of like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like I was doing like subclavian central lines and just hoping that I didn't cause a pneumothorax and doing all these procedures that kind of wigged me out a little bit. And I kind of heard about ultrasound because it was new back then. It was newer, and it was really a small sect of people who understood it. And so I jumped on that, and it's definitely become much more standardized in the emergency room. It's definitely something that now it's part of the PA school and the medical school education is learning ultrasound. I just taught up at the PA school a workshop there. It's now part of their routine. Every second year PA student needs to understand ultrasound before they walk into the ER. So I think though it is more standard now in the emergency room, it's still not like mandatory. It's not part of like some kind of expectation. It's still, there are still kind of older doctors that never really picked it up that are still doing stuff without ultrasound, and they just not interested. So I think that we're going to have a similar arc in aesthetics, where I think that it's still becoming more and more popular in aesthetics, but I think that we're going to have holdouts that just never do it. And it's going to be fine. Like they don't need to, they're doing their thing. Do I think it's like much safer? Yes. And I think it's, makes our practice more medical and, a little bit less like beauty industry and a little bit more medical. I think when we start talking about using ultrasound. So I think that it's okay that everybody doesn't jump on board the ultrasound wagon, but it's my job as an educator to make it as digestible and easy to understand as possible. I always joke that I told Stella and Dr. Weiner that like they are very elegant in the way they teach, and that I asked Stella, I said, well, Dr. Weiner, I think, is like, if ultrasound were music, he would be the Mozart of ultrasound, and I'd be like the Justin Bieber. Like, and I asked Stella, I was like, okay, what do you think she'd be like, oh, I'd be Mozart, I'd be Bach, And so we kind of laugh about, I definitely think I dumb things down. And I think that's okay. Like, I think when you read a novel, read the novel and the Cliff's Notes and kind of understand that there are two different ways to approach it. This is a vast field in aesthetics, ultrasound. I think there's a ton to learn, and I think it's great. I tell everyone, take Weiner's course, take Stella's course, take my course. You're gonna learn different stuff from all of us. So, yeah, that's kind of how I approach education, is just try to, like, I use imagery, like when you're diving down to the piriform fossa on ultrasound. Remember the scene in the Top Gun Maverick where he has to like get over the ridge and he has to bomb down in the crater? That's kind of what you have to do. You have to get over the maxilla and bomb down, and like using really dumb images, like, remember that part in Maverick, that I think people will go, oh yeah, that part. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense to me. So that's always my goal, is to just try to make it as easy as possible, because I do think the more people that use it, the safer our industry becomes. So that's kind of my mission.
Well, I was thinking that you're more of like the Cardi B of ultrasound. That's where I was going with that. I was like, she's going to say Cardi B. I just know it, but you didn't. But I'll take Bieber too. Well, I love the bees, but I was in a class with Stella a few weeks ago in California, and we were doing an actual adverse event. We had an occlusion that was on stage that had come in. They'd called Dr. Sadat. The physician had already treated her at her office. We were coming in to do some more, and watching her go through the occlusion and what had already, had sort of, decompressed, if you will, and the blood starting to flow again. And it just, you could like in real time watch it all happening. And then I think Dr. Rivkin was on stage actually injecting more Hylenex, and he knew right where to go and, what to fix. It was just remarkable to watch it. But as she's talking about this, and I'm a pretty intelligent human, I'm like, what in the hell is she talking about? Like, all these images she's seeing, like, I don't see any of that stuff. I just see like a bunch of gray on a page, and, it was like complete, I don't know. It was like looking at, a foreign language to me. I had no idea what I was looking at. And I'm thinking about an injector who's looking at this, who doesn't do ultrasound, who's, coming out of the, RN world into this. It takes practice. I mean, I've watched now ultrasound lectures. I don't know how many hundreds of hours of the stuff I've looked at, but even now I'm like, what the heck am I looking at? And I think just like injecting, you didn't learn to inject in your first class, and you weren't an amazing injector on day 1, hour 3. It's the same, it's a journey. And I think people probably push back because it's hard. In the beginning, it doesn't make sense to them. It doesn't feel easy. And it's like, oh, one more thing to learn and do. And I got to invest in more training. And there's all these reasons why I'm like, if you have one occlusion that you could solve and stop someone from blindness, like, wouldn't it be worth it? I don't know. I have such a different opinion about it. Like, if it's safer, we should be doing it, all of us. But, that's just my opinion. But you use chicken cutlets. I've seen you with your little chicken. Your classes seem to be really fun. Your people love it. But you're coming to Aesthetic Next in a few weeks, or I guess 2 months, to do more injection or more ultrasound classes. So what does the class look like? Because I'm curious, like, how do you teach this? Someone who knows nothing about ultrasound walks in your room, and you're like, okay, let's make you an ultrasound, guru. What does that even look like in real time?
Well, I start with saying, like, you're not going to be an ultrasound guru by the end of the day. I'm going to make you an ultrasound adopter, like, so that you could adopt it into your practice by the end of the day. And that's my goal. And so we start with just really basic controls and just basic ultrasound understanding. I don't go into like major ultrasound physics. I use like, imagery from the movie Blackfish, and like how the whale is calling to her child in a very low frequency pitch to find her whale child. And so, like, we kind of just start with like, these are very basic pearls of knowledge that you need to understand, and try to not get too caught up in a lot of this other stuff. And then I go into just kind of like, here's some really easy ways to start using ultrasound. And like, safe mapping is my trademark technique of just where you basically are just checking to see if you can put your injection of filler with a needle in any part of the face. So I kind of just start with that, which is, I think, the easiest way to adopt ultrasound. So we work on that, and then we kind of work on ergonomics, and that's where we use the chicken, and we work on just kind of target practice is what I call it. And then the afternoon is really hands-on, where we get models. We have a database of Sparkle Aesthetics patients who volunteer to be our ultrasound models, and we just kind of practice ultrasound stuff. We don't inject. We don't inject anything. So most people are coming from out of the state where they don't have a license in Illinois. So we're doing just kind of like fojections, and just to kind of get the sense of how you will go back to your practice and use it. And then at the end of the day, I say, now you need to line up your own patients for a day, get ultrasound day, get your own models, and do some of this stuff and take it back to your practice. Because if you don't use it right away, you lose it. So I really try to kind of encourage them, like, now you have the skills that you need to keep practicing and keep building. This is not the end of your learning. And I say, go take Weiner's course or Stella's course and really see what else you can learn.
Well, so then you recommend that they buy the device first, I'm guessing, so that they can leave this class and then go do it. But I just recently did a GE grant to get you and Stella the ultrasound devices from GE. We have Mindray, we have Claris, we have GE. There's lots of choices out there, and they have very different price points. And I feel like you walk around with like one in your hand all the time. Like, you see Dani at the airport, she has ultrasound. You see Dani in the bathroom, she's ultrasound. Like, wherever you are, you have an ultrasound device with you, because they're now so handheld and mobile. But how do you choose which one to buy? You know, what fits your practice best if you're the injector looking at this for the first time? And should you buy it again first and then go to class, or go to class first and then go buy it? Like, is it chicken or the egg?
Well, I think a lot of times, I think it really does help to come and take the course first, because I have all these ultrasounds all over the place. It's like an ultrasound barn, they're just like they're all over the place. You can kind of see. And for some reason, a lot of times people are drawn to one over the other, and they come and they take the course and go, you know what? For some reason, this image on this screen, it's really, I can understand this. So in some ways, I think it's best to take the course and then go buy it, because you can practice all of them. However, some people have already kind of practiced at a conference. Now that lots of different vendors are at different conferences, they already know which one they want to buy. So then they buy it and they come and take my course. I'm very lucky in that the ultrasound companies have kind of created these educational programs where they get like a discount if they have taken my course, or they give a discount to take my course when they buy it. So I think that, like, that's all kind of great signs of the industry, is that now these ultrasound companies are going, yeah, we know that we need to buy, we know we need to support the user in a way that we're not necessarily doing in the hospitals, because in the hospital systems, they have educational platforms, they have other people who can teach them at the hospital how to use the ultrasound, but in aesthetics, they don't. So I think a lot of the ultrasound companies are getting pretty savvy about, okay, we need to actually help them understand how to use it. So they are saying, we'll support these courses if you want to go take one of these facial ultrasound courses that are CME accredited. So I think that's also really helpful, because then that allows the user to have that sense of confidence, like, okay, if I get this, then I can go take Dani's course and go right away and kind of have that knowledge that I need to use it. So there's two different ways to do it. I think, if you're going to use the Mindray, then you can buy the Mindray, come take my course, or, there's different ways to think about it. But I think that there's definitely a benefit to taking the course first and being able to decide which one you feel most comfortable with.
Well, I think you said something there that really kind of piques my interest, and I am a big believer in CME, because I think it levels the playing field to like a quality education experience. Is that you have, I think, one of the only ones that's accredited in the U.S. ultrasound classes, and I think what you mentioned about the manufacturers now believe that it's a valid, viable experience, and so they want to support it. I think that I read somewhere you teach other PAs, and you had to get it accredited because you wanted to teach other PAs and other medical programs, so you had to get a CME accreditation. But that process is not fun. I've done it. I do it for other people all the time, and it's a laborious process, but I feel like it gives you some kind of validation that, this is like a real thing. And so I look at all these injectors who are doing trainings even in their own office, filler, Botox, whatever, and I'm like, go get CMEs, go do the work to get it done, because it just puts you on a different level playing field than you would have without it. So In that process too, you also have now trademarked safe mapping, which I love, proprietary aesthetic methods. We just did a class with Katie Lindum about that, where it's your thing. It has your name on it. No one can ever do it except for you. It's like you own it. Leslie Fletcher's also really good at this too. So I think those are two things that set you apart. And in doing that, as people start to go out and start training on ultrasound, they're popping up kind of everywhere. How do you market that? Because I think part of it, people think about, if I do all the work to do ultrasound or to do CMEs and all the work to get these brands and trademark things, is it actually worth it long term? How does it pay off for me, ROI? So different question, entirely business question. Is it paying off for you, and is it worth the effort to go through all that rigmarole to get it done?
That's a great question. For me, it was definitely worth it because it's really important to me to preserve the quality of ultrasound education. And, the reason why I ended up trademarking and getting some of these patents is because I started teaching, and then I started seeing on Instagram some people I, had taught, like going out there and kind of teaching it, but it wasn't correct. And it kind of, I was like, oh man, I'd hate for ultrasound to be kind of dirtied down to kind of have it be taught in that way. So I kind of went down that road of thinking, well, I really want this to be received well, and I want there to be no complications after somebody has kind of, misused the ultrasound or misunderstood how it was supposed to be used in that context. So I feel like it's worth it to me, just knowing that if you want to learn how to safe map, you come and take my course. It's a really important part of how I teach and how to inject safely. So, it's sort of two different ways to think about it, in that sense that I think it's worth it for the quality. In terms of like the ROI, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. In some ways, in a lot of business decisions, you just do and don't think about it in terms of an ROI. It's more like this is just gonna make me feel better about what I'm doing.
I think it has ROI because they have to come to you to take the class, right? Only you teach safe mapping. And I'm curious I know what safe mapping is a little bit from reading a lot of your presentations last year and just, having listened to your interviews and things over the years, where you take like the really complex vascular structures and things and you're like, okay, let's distill this down to what's really important for you as an injector. So what actually is safe mapping? And thinking through that, as an injector in the room, is it even possible to do it in an appointment? Like, how realistic is it for somebody to, whip out the old Claris and start doing ultrasound in the middle of like their filler appointment? Because I think that's where another reason to get a little bit hesitant is like, is this real life? Like, can I really do this inside of a practice, or is this, just for an occlusion?
Yeah, I definitely think that like it's safe mapping. It's really very simple. You're basically just saying, you're putting aside all of the complexities of vascular mapping. I don't really like the term vascular mapping when it comes to injecting on a day-to-day basis, because when you look at a CT angiogram of the face, where you start to look at all the vessels of the face, it's like, wait, why are we doing that? Why are we mapping all of that when we just want to know, can I put filler in this chin right here? I think vascular mapping and some of this ultrasound stuff, it's really easy to go down a wormhole where you've suddenly made it much more complicated than it needs to be. So that's where I came up with the idea of safe mapping. It's like, we don't really need to go and explore the entire face or track this whole vessel to see where it goes, to find out really what the point of the ultrasound is can I make this injection safer? So it really it prevents someone from getting too distracted by ultrasound. And I kind of came up with it because it's like, I get very distracted by ultrasound. It's like, I'll be ultrasounding somebody's face. I'm like, whoa, that is so cool. Wait, hold on. Where does this go? What's this? Oh my God, is that a muscle or a ligament? You just kind of can easily just go off-roading, as I call it. So safe mapping is a way to just say, put all that stuff aside. Let's keep this appointment quick. I'm going to add 2 minutes to this injection because I'm going to just quick safe map and check this spot and see if it's safe. So it's really a much more practical way to adopt ultrasound in your practice. So yeah, I think it's an additional 5 minutes to an appointment once you get it down right.
Yeah, I think it's targeted, right? It's like the area that you're going to inject, go target and go look at that. But I do a lot of cadaver labs, and I think it's the same issue in cadaver labs. We look at all these parts of the face, and it gets really complex and confusing. It's like, guys, you don't even inject there. Like, why are you looking at that? You don't even inject in that area, nor should you. Let's look at things that you actually do all day long and figure out how to work in that area. But you find these anomalies, right? You find arteries that are out of place, and I've had a rhinoplasty, so my nose is like crazy, and everyone's got this kind of unique anatomy, if you will, in some cases. I think if you do that a lot, you start to get a little bit nervous, and you get that little butthole pucker of like, oh, this could be a real thing, and you want to do ultrasound now because you're like, oh, holy shit, this could be a real issue for me. And so I think they're like almost they're correlated, right? The more cadaver, more anatomy that you understand, the more scared you are, and the more you want to have ultrasound. And so there's almost like it's opposite here. It's like the less you know, you walk around like having no idea what's going on. You're like, I don't need that. I don't have an idea. The more you know, you're like, oh crap, let's buy 3 ultrasound devices and have them all in our office and, do it all day long. So we have a weird thing in this industry where we're kind of, we're in opposite day all the time. But thinking through that, again, your patients come in your practice, right? They love you. They think you're hilarious and fun, get great outcomes. How did they feel about ultrasound? Are they used to just like sitting in the chair an extra 5 minutes, having you, look at their face? How does the patient aspect of it change? Because again, it's a cultural shift in the office where they walk in like, no one else does this. Do they think that you're like super impactful and helpful and amazing because you do it? Or are they like, this is kind of a, just an add-on?
No, they love it. They totally love it. And it's even like, it draws people into the practice in a way that is really surprising sometimes. And even we have people who are like, oh, that's the place that does ultrasound. That's where I want to go get my facial, and just random things. Or they'll say, oh, you do ultrasound, right? So are you going to ultrasound like this to do my Botox here? And, and it's just, it's really funny that things that don't even require ultrasound, or things that I don't even use ultrasound for, people are coming in and saying, can you ultrasound that part? Because it'll just make me feel better. So they don't understand what you're looking at. They don't understand what it's doing, but they just know it's for safety, and they know that it's protecting them. And I think in aesthetics, we lose sight of, there are still a lot of people who are very nervous about filler. I have tons of Botox patients who come in, and I've been saying, it's time to do filler. Let's get a little bit of filler. And, and they're like, ooh, it still makes me so nervous. And they're like, I mean, I know you do ultrasound, so when I'm ready, I'm going to only go to you. So they definitely understand that there's something going on with the safety, and they love it. And so I think for anybody who's thinking about bringing it into their practice, it shows your patients your commitment to safety, that they do understand, that they understand that it's out there on social media. They can even Google it now and say like, who does ultrasound near me type of thing. That's one of the Google searches that people are doing.
Well, that's fun. I didn't know that. But, I think patients are really smart now. Patients are looking at Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and they're hearing all these things about adverse events and complications. Some folks love to put complications on their Instagram. They love to talk about occlusions on their Instagram. It makes me crazy. It's like you can't put that out there and then not have a solution. Like you can't say, hey, patients, this is all so dangerous, and not say, but we take measures to make it safer, or we do things to make it more safe than if we didn't do them. And so I think patients are kind of equally scared, but also more informed than they've ever been before. And they've got to know that you're doing something. And so I think it's a calling card, again, to your branding. Like you've become this brand, like you are synonymous with your brand, with ultrasound. It's all kind of one big thing. And patients, I think, really appreciate that. But it's funny, I'm envisioning in my mind a video of like, a patient runs out, like, when they've seen Elvis or the Beatles, fanning themselves like, Dani, you did my ultrasound. I could just like see this coming live, because people probably are like waiting in line to get that done. So I think it's remarkable that what you've done, pioneering it in a sense, and people who are pushing back, just give it a second and go do the Maverick, the Maverick metaphor. Go do some chicken cutlets with Dani. You'll become a big fan of ultrasound. But you're coming up at Aesthetic Next. I'm going to talk about that for just a quick second. You're obviously training. I think I read last night you're doing like a training in August and September and October, November, everywhere. But you're also going to be at AN. You and Stella have a class together on Wednesday, a full day class. And you have one as well by yourself doing safe mapping. So tell us what's in store for that, because this will come out before Aesthetic Next. So what's in store for us at AN with all of your workshops?
Yeah, you said it. We have our one-day course. Stella and I have our one-day course together, which is going to be super fun. I think Stella and I have always wanted to work together. I've already done a course with Weiner, so I'm like super pumped to do a course with Stella. And we have that on Wednesday, like you said, and then we have just a quick safe map workshop, I believe. Or no, that's the lecture. I'm going to do the safe map lecture, and then the side workshop, I believe. And so we're just going to be kind of honing in on that just to get that down, because I do think that's like a number one kind of complication prevention maneuver. So I think that's a great way to start for people who are just like, okay, now if I get ultrasound, can I do that? And the answer is yes, this part's easy. You'll be able to do that. So that's the AN wrap. It's like full day workshop and lecture.
But I think it's like a preview as well. I think the one that you're doing by yourself is like a preview. If I'm not sure yet that I want to go all in with ultrasound, I can go do like a realistic job preview, if you will, a couple hours, see if I like it. I think the one with you and Stella, I envision people, I've had people call me, ask me about it, like, oh my gosh, it's like the two celebrities of ultrasound to get in the same room. And you guys are focusing on different things in your individual workshop. She's doing adverse events and you're doing more of safe mapping, getting like practical ultrasound use into practice. And so I think whatever your poison is, you can pick it here at Aesthetic Next. But if you guys are not coming to the overall conference on Wednesday, you can come without coming to the conference and do the class. But it's going to be incredible. You're going to have all the devices there. And then in your own practice, when you do them, is that a full day? Is that a weekend? How long are the courses that you give?
Yeah. So in my training center, my ultrasound training center, I try to do one a month of a full day CME course, 8 hours where we just do that whole agenda that I described, where it's like from soup to nuts, where you're just going to start the day with the basics. And then by the end of the day, I'm going to show you some advanced techniques that I've worked on, and everybody gets to practice them on the models by the end of the day. And that's really exciting to me because, you have these people, come in at 9, grab kind of quietly and shyly grab their donut and their coffee. And they're like, I've never done ultrasound, and then by the end of the day, they're like, yeah, got it. Like, I got this. Yeah. And just to see them just blowing it out of the water by the end of the day, it's really fun for me.
Well, and I think, traveling to your office, I'm sure is a fun experience as well. I just saw you had Julie Bass Kaplan there, I think a few weeks ago. You're going to other people's classes and doing things. I think you're just out with Scott Callahan somewhere for the Dolce Symposium. I mean, you're kind of everywhere, Dani. You really are. So guys, if you have not gone to class yet and you can't come to Aesthetic Next, definitely go look up Dani's website. I think it's sparkleaesthetics.com and find the training, go to it, go experience ultrasound, learn about it, get used to it. So, Dani, what's next for you? Because I feel like, again, you're on this meteoric rise of ultrasound guru-ness. You're like the Dalai Lama of ultrasound. So what comes next in your life and your practice and growth and your expanding? So, how will Dani look in 2024?
So we actually are building out a space down the block because we've sort of busted out of our little corner spot. So my space is going to be moving down. It's being built out as we speak. So a bigger training center and more rooms for injections, a bigger sort of injection room where I can do a lot more. There's a lot more space for ultrasound. And there's a bench for people if they want to come and watch. So I'm really excited about that. Just my new space should be pretty fun. I'm working on this complication clinic. I do a lot of complications. I do handle a lot of complications that people send my way. So I've started to kind of formalize the process of admitting complications so that I can kind of quickly get to those. And it's not just like a, quick text. Oh, hey, somebody, that'll still always happen, I'm sure. But just kind of like a kind of client intake for complications. So I'm really excited about that. I really love kind of fixing these aesthetic complications, for lack of a better term. So that's going to be really fun for me. And yeah, I mean, my team has grown. I've hired a few more people, and 2024, I hope to have my practice manager. I've been looking for a practice manager for months. And so yeah, that's my goal. Find a robust practice manager to help me keep my head on straight with all of this going on.
Well, good luck. You're like the 8th person who's told me they need a practice manager. But will you do me a big favor in your complications class? Will you tell folks to chart correctly so that whenever they get to you, you can look at their records and it's actually accurate? Like, where did you put it? How much did you use? What product did you use? Because it makes me crazy when these things happen. It's like, I don't know. I didn't write it down. And it was like, 4 days ago and I've slept since then. I'm like, oh my God, you got to chart stuff. Take a picture, write it down, use a tool. I don't care what you use. Use a static record, use whatever you want to use. Just put it in the chart, because documentation is such a gap in this industry. It makes me crazy.
Definitely. That's actually part of why I want to have this kind of complications clinic portal, because it sort of forces whoever's referring the patient to kind of get all that documentation in there. So I can say, okay, like, when was this? What was it? And just be able to help in that way.
Thank you. Like I said, you're out there doing the Lord's work every day, making changes. Well, I have loved having you on for our season 4 kickoff. Like I said, total fangirl. I'm like, in your corner, no matter what no matter what you do. I think it's the best ever. You were our X Factor winner last year at the Aesthetic Nexties because I was like obsessed with you and still am. So I can't wait to see what happens from now on till 2050, wherever you may go. And we're going to come to your practice at some point. I'm bringing the whole crew. We're going to come to Chicago and we're going to hang out and take a course and see what this is all about. But I will see you in a few months. Any last words for our audience before we roll off?
No, but I just want to echo, my admiration for you. It's really what you've done with your business and your practice. Your Aesthetic Record and Aesthetic Next, you've built like this amazing conference that everybody wants to go to. You're fangirling, but so am I. Especially from a business perspective, you're like a tycoon. So we have a lot to learn from you.
Well, I've got a great team. I'm sure you feel the same way. It's all about how good your team is. So spend time there and make them great, and then they'll make you look good, even if you're not. So that's my secret. But I will see all of you guys next week for our next episode. And Dani, thank you so much for coming on. You have been fantastic. And I will see you in 2 months in Dallas.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks for listening to another episode of For the Record. This podcast is not intended to provide legal or medical advice. It's for entertainment, education, and information purposes only. For more information on this week's guest or to get started with Aesthetic Record, email us at info@aestheticrecord.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more fresh perspectives on disrupting the status quo and surviving in the aesthetics industry.